So I want to talk about the never-ending cycle of growth. And for those that are not familiar with me, my name is Coach Denise. I am the owner and principal consultant of Never Stop Growing Coaching and Consulting. It's a transformational coaching practice that uses realistic goal setting and accountability strategies to help you rewrite the narratives that have been holding you back from the life you desire to live. All right, so listen, growth is this ongoing thing. And in theory, we get it. But in everyday life, oh baby, that sucker can be frustrating. I am in the middle of going through a grief period, a rather interesting grief period. I'm grieving the loss of my biological mother. And with all the work that I've done, especially as a coach, with all the work that I've done in my own private therapy sessions, in my own coaching sessions, and in working with people, because the amount of growth that you can experience by working and listening to other people's stories, amazing. But anyway, with all of that, I thought by the time I reached the point of my mother's death, I would be pretty well off in terms of managing it. What I didn't realize is that there comes a point where certain things are not activated within your life. You've learned to work, you've learned to function, you've learned to develop coping skills that keep them at bay. And then situations arise in your life that bring those old feelings to the surface. And for me, that was the death of my mother. Now, conceptually, this was something that I knew was possible, but in the years since I've been working on myself, I hadn't quite experienced it to the level that I did with this. And when I found out about her death, the first thing that came over me was this overwhelming consumption of anger. And as a woman who is building on her faith and building on her personal development, anger was not the feeling that I wanted to hold on to, and I was very scared. I was thinking, I hope that this doesn't change who I am, because I love who I've become. And so I started to ask myself, is this anger coming or going? Is it coming or going? And what I realized is that the anger was coming up to exit out. And as uncomfortable as it felt, and I need you guys to hear me if you are going through a period that feels hella uncomfortable, as uncomfortable, as displeasant, as fucking annoying as it may feel, baby, let it happen. Let it happen. This is growth transpiring within you, right? So I had to let it happen. The thoughts that were associated with it, what I'm notorious for doing is asking, what is this? Why is it here? What is it? Why is it here? And just until I feel like this moment of this is it, right? And I stress this all the time in my different videos. What and why questions are powerful, and it helps you to tap into parts of yourself that you did not realize were there. So some people are like, well, how do I know when I found the answer? It really is a knowing. We are connected. Our inner selves want to talk to us. It just wants to talk to us, and it is talking to us every day, except we've learned to mute it so much that we're not familiar with it. But when you start asking yourself, what is this and why is it here? Responses start to come. At first, it'll feel like, no, that's not it. Great. That's how you know you're connecting. When you ask yourself a what, and you're like, okay, yeah, why? And that first one doesn't feel deep enough. And then you say, okay, but what is that about? Why is that here? And it still doesn't feel deep enough? Great. That means that you are connecting. And then there hits a point where you ask a what and a why, and it's like, bam, you struck gold for the moment, because there's always a deeper level. But stay there, because in the moment, that is what your subconscious is asking you to deal with. And so me dealing with the grief of my mother, once I realized that it was coming up to exit, I had to let the thoughts go. And one of the hurtful experiences was that I realized that my deep-seated visions of becoming this ideal daughter, right? Like daughter as in having a mother that cares about you and that wants you, that was dead. And at 40 years old, I still had that part of me that was deeply rooted, and it was coming up. because with the passing of my biological mother was the passing of that also. And I explored it. I let the expiration go. And this took me down a path where I had the cry, like the ugly cry, but the muted ugly cry where you're like, "Ah," and you can't get words out. That's where I was. And I can't stand that cry. Even to this day, I can't stand it, but I embrace it because I know it's healing and it's healthy for me. So even with your growth journey, the cycles of growth, who you were, is still a part of you. It just becomes integrated and it balances you out. So the things that I didn't like at once, it's not that I love them. Some of them, yeah. But it's not that I'm like in love with these things, like crying. I don't love crying, but I know how necessary and vital it is. And I refuse to keep myself from that experience of releasing through tears. So when it comes down to growth, know that it is this ever evolving thing, and what and why will constantly help you figure out what to work on next. If you are curious to start your journey or go deeper in your journey, use the links that are in the description to learn more about how NSG can support you. I am committed to this work. As a person of color, as a Black woman growing up in one of the poorest counties in all of the United States, which is the Bronx, I am committed to seeing my people of color especially rise. So reach out, let's connect, let's grow together. In the meantime, stay tuned, follow me if you are not following me, tell your friends about me if they don't know, and never stop growing. Later, y'all.